You know, it's funny. I always list K-On! As my favorite anime, and it is, but it's not like I love it so much more than the next things down on my favorites list. You know, I've got multiple 10 out of 10 shows, they're all pretty much on the same level, but this show is just so widely misunderstood and mischaracterized that I find myself having to talk about it more than anything else, just to, make more people understand it and why it would be my favorite show. You know, I've got some friends who are maybe not as into anime or not as into this kind of anime who take a look at K-On! And they say things like, I'm not into that whole moe look. I'm not into that style, this whole, this whole style of characters that they see K-On! As. And they just compare it to every other show. And I always find that a little weird because, like, I understand that these people aren't as well versed in this stuff as I am. They're not looking at it as deeply or watching all of these shows and studying it the way I am. But, like, I think K-On! Is, like, really different from most moe shows, most other cute girl shows, most of the stuff that's in the style that people are comparing it to. And, I've had ideas to make a video about this and other subjects like this before, and it always just comes off as, like, it's a little petty of a thing to make a whole edited video about, you know? I'd have to make comparisons, show all these pictures, try to detail it, and, make you understand. It's just a bit too much work for something as simple as this topic that most people probably don't care about. And honestly, not a lot of people are going to be convinced even after I make this point. However, I figured out that because I have so many K-On! Posters and so many other posters, I can just do this in live action with my posters, and it'll be real easy. So alright, the main thing that makes K-On!'s designs distinct to me is that they're real pudgy looking. This poster illustrates it real well. You can really see how the characters all have, like, these, jutting out cheeks, these very round looks. They all look like sort of soft and, like, if you poke them then their skin would go in kind of thing, They've got this I used to always call them marshmallow girls back when the show first came out, because they just have this kind of doughy look to them. They're all a little thicker than anime girls usually are, and they've got, like, just this, I don't know, they look very real to me, like, compared to most characters in this so-called moe style. Even their eyes aren't really that big, proportional to their faces. It's not like they have giant eyes. They have pretty tiny mouths, but, like, their hair colors are all normal. They've all got black or brown hair, with Mugi having, like, a sort of blondish, brownish hair. I think the goal of K-On!'s character designers was to make the characters look fairly realistic. The show is supposed to feel kind of grounded, You might notice in this poster that, like, none of their chests really stick out. Even Mio over there, who has fairly large boobs, like, if you see the show when she has her swimsuit on, you can tell. But, like, overall, like, this is the main way that the girls are portrayed in the show. And you can see, like, a poster like this that tries to get a little racier. This is not official art. This was for, like, Megami Magazine, which is normally extremely racy pictures, but, like, with K-On!, they were asked to play it a little classier. So, but you can see that their chests are a little bit more pronounced, that they're a little bit sharper in their images, they're showing, a bit more leg. You can still kind of see that pudgy, soft aesthetic, but, like, in Yui's face here, it just looks a lot sharper, because this is not official art. This is not really the aesthetic of the show so much. It's more of a, sexualized image from this magazine. So let's look at some other characters from some other shows from what people might consider a similar art style. So if we go down here we've got another unofficial art of K-On! From a Megami Magazine. Still pretty close to the regular art. You can still see the sort of pudginess. This one, their skin tones look a little bit lighter, but they're definitely a little bit sharper. Now let's look at this. Now here we see characters who are really sharply designed. Even though they have very round faces, which is Kanzaki Hiro's style, he draws, like, these really, really round eyes, really round faces on his characters. The lines look a lot sharper. There's a lot of these little shiny things, and we're going to see a lot of this as we look at these other characters, because characters in this style are usually shiny, and I don't really know why. I don't know if it's like a sexual thing or what. They just always have those shiny bits and those sharp, crisp lines. And even this would be closer to K-On! On the spectrum, but still pretty vastly different from this sort of marshmallow look. Now let's move over to these lollies over here from Prisma Ilia. This is like really sharp designs. These characters are, you know, they've got a lot of like small details and subtleties in the line work. That's all very sharp. You can really see it there in the knees. And they've got a sort of angular look to them, like if you see in her chin right here. I mean, again, this is not necessarily official art, but this looks exactly like the official art. It might be official, I don't know. Like sometimes Megami posters are just basically like reproductions of official art. But like this show, if you watch it, is extremely sexualized, and like there's a lot of detail in each shot of the characters, like where the curvature is very specific. Kind of the opposite of this, where everyone's just kind of like a marshmallowy thing. Here's some really typical designs. Like this is the typical aesthetic of not light levels, of visual novels. Where they always have this really big hair, especially her, just visual novel. I don't know what it is about visual novel characters. They always have giant hair. It's always been a thing since the late 90s. It's just like a weird trait of the whole medium. You got these big-haired girls, gigantic eyes that take up a way disproportional amount of their face. You know, this is a little dated because this is from like the late 2000s, whereas the things I've been showing you so far, like K-On's from 2009, these two shows are both from the 2010s. So this is more of a 2007 look. But again, the characters are very sharp, very thin, lighter skin tones, huge eyes, and more pronounced chest on Miyako over there. So let's move over here. Here's Haruhi from the same studio as K-On! Now, this is a terrible picture, but as you can see, fan service is very prominent. Sharper faces, bigger eyes. If I showed you more, this is from Read or Die. Pretty different from the Moe aesthetic altogether, really. Let's look at Shakugan no Shana. Interestingly enough, the same original character designer as Haruhi over there, but this was a JC Staff adaptation of the designs. Extremely sharp, again, on the faces, really sharp lines. These characters have, like, smaller hair. This was sort of, like, I would say this artist, like, between Haruhi, Shana, and other stuff like this, Noiji Ito is the artist for this, was when hair started getting smaller, and we got more of the light novel look that we get today. But you can see how very sharp and how shiny these designs are, and how pronounced the chest is, and how big the eyes are, you know. Even a lolly show like Moe-tan, this one's just, these character designs are just hideous. So the only show that I've ever seen that really reminds me of K-On! Is Lucky Star, which is from the same character designer. It still has that really blobby look. You can really see it in the feet and everything, and the way that this area is in the face. But the characters from Lucky Star were very thin, and they were, you know, candy-colored hair, very lolly, very anime looking, because that was more of an otaku-driven show. It wasn't really fan servicey. I mean, even this is, again, it's a Megami poster. It's more fan servicey than the show itself. But like, I would say that even this is way more typically anime than K-On!, and it's like the closest thing to K-On!, and it's from the same character designer, you know? These are obviously not Moe at all style, more heavily drawn, but like here we have some Higurashi stuff. Characters are super thin, much more crisp, much more pronounced. Another Noisy Ito show, which was Nanatsuhiro Drops. Let's move over here. Here's some Strike Witches. Super sharp lines, very shiny, super duper shiny, lots of blush, super shiny girls from Saki, like ridiculously shiny in this particular picture. So yeah, like to me, if I had to characterize the Moe aesthetic like as it typically is, I would say it's more, you know, of these like sharp, shiny, big eyes, big hair, and lots of glossiness. I mean, in fairness, I'm mostly showing, like, Megami. Here's some official art. These characters from Gakko Gurashi. God, I can't get out of the light. Um, pretty sharp, pretty shiny, very skinny. I mean, I love the designs in this show, but, you know, they're moe. It's just the way that those shows look. But K-On! Doesn't really look like that. Look how flat and earthy the character designs are. Look at how the color choices for the hair are just so, like, not bright at all. They're all these really earthy tones. They've all got much darker skin tones. You know, more realistic uniforms and outfits and stuff. They just kind of look homey. And I think that came through to a lot of audiences, because K-On! Didn't just sell with otaku audiences. It really had this cross-market appeal. It was, a lot of girls were into it, a lot of non-otaku were into it. It was an extremely successful show. You know, Kill La Kill doesn't really fit the moe aesthetic because it's extremely stylized, and, you know, the artist has a very particular style. It wasn't really trying to fit in with the norms of the genre. Hibike Euphonium's much closer to K-On! Because it was the same people and, you know, after the same result. And this one is actually from, like, the character designer for the anime of this handled the anime of Haruhi, which had very sexualized designs, and this show kind of went in a different direction, where it's almost like a blend. You can tell when you see the characters more stripped down, when they're wearing, like, less clothes in some of the artwork from that artist, you can really tell it's the same artist as Haruhi. But in the show, it feels almost more like K-On!, where they're, you know, they're definitely crisper and less marshmallowy than the K-On! Girls, because they're meant to look a little stronger, because it's a more dramatic narrative, but I would say it's more comparable to the feel that the show is going for, because again, these shows were not made to just be otaku shows, the way that these shows were, you know? These character designs from these shows over here were just meant to be... How did I skip this whole huge poster over here? Look at this. Super pronounced chests, you know, very shiny looking, very vibrant hair. This one's a little bit down to earth. For some reason in this poster, everyone has giant hips. I don't even think the show was like that itself. But, you know, I really think K-On! Was going for something different. And I think that while that was communicated to a lot of people from outsider perspectives, people who haven't watched the show, who just look at all anime and just see nothing but the same cute girls everywhere, they don't get it. And so hopefully I've helped you to get it. And if not, whatever, dude.